Hello everyone, I'm Ian from Creative Visuals, and in today's video we are going to be going over the Autel Evo once again and doing some tests regarding the newest firmware update, as well as some of the things that some commenters have asked about in recent videos. So we're going to start off with a test. If any of you saw my last video that you can find right here, you would know that there was an issue in the firmware that I was having that pretty much had the drone stop when it thought there was obstacles, but it was up high enough that there weren't any obstacles, so it was just stopping, and it was really annoying. I did have some commenters saying that that was happening to them, and some others saying that it didn't happen to them, so I really want to get to the bottom of that, so I will be testing that. But before that, with my very first battery here that I just charged up, it's nice and warm in the car, we're going to start with that, which is seeing if you turn obstacle avoidance off altogether, does it result in better battery life than using obstacle avoidance? Is it better for your battery life and not having to worry about these issues to just turn obstacle avoidance off altogether if you're flying at altitudes where you don't have to even worry about any obstacles unless you're landing or taking off? So we are going to be going over that, and finally we're going to be going over to somewhere where there's a hill. Hopefully there is something around here to basically find out if the drone is tracking me. If I'm the subject and I go up, will the drone raise its altitude or will it stay the same, just to see how that works on the Autel Evo. So that's what we're doing today. Number one, battery test, see if it is any better with obstacle avoidance off versus having it on. We are then going to test if the drone is still stopping and sensing obstacles where there aren't any, and finally we're going to do the altitude test in the tracking mode. So enough of this rambling, and let's get into this video. Okay, so to start here, we are just going to go in here, visual navigation, and as you can see, everything is on. So we are going to, for the first 10% of the battery, go in and use it how we would normally. I'm just going to have it recording, fly around a bit just in this little area, and for the first 10% we'll see how long it takes to go down with obstacle avoidance on, and then we will do another 10% and see how long it takes with obstacle avoidance off. So let's get right into this. So I'm going to start recording here, start up the motors, and we are up. So the time has started, we are at 100% battery, and I am just going to stay at a similar altitude and just pretty much leave the stick forward getting shots. I'm not gonna do anything too crazy. I'm just gonna leave it in this mode with obstacle avoidance on and pretty much just get some random shots. Nothing too crazy. So we're at 98%. 96, 95, and if you're wondering, I am just reading the percentages off of the controller as they don't come up on the screen for some reason, so I will just read them every time I notice it going down. We're now at 94. As you can see there, it sensed the obstacle, which is the post there. As you can see, we have radar maps on, everything looks good. See if we can go right through them. We're at 93. Start coming back over here so that I can switch it. I'm in the car right there. Okay, so we're now at 90%. So that's how long it took right there. So now let's just switch obstacle avoidance to off and continue the flight. So as you can see, it instantly goes a lot faster. I know this isn't the most scientific test out there, but I thought it would be worth a shot just to see the differences in flight times, everything. So I'm just gonna do the same sort of little maneuver I did there. And at the end, once I get home, I will check the footage and see which flight lasted longer. So we'll just go around here. We're currently at 88%. It will be quite interesting to know whether by turning off obstacle avoidance you actually save on battery, because once you're at higher altitudes you really don't need it that much. It's more just for taking off and landing, so it'll be interesting to see how much of a difference it actually makes. So let's see if I can actually get through this one this time. See if I can do something fancy here. Decent. come up here. We are at 85% battery. So as you can see, at about 12 meters, that's where it starts to pick up the obstacles. And there we go, right through, up over the sign. Now we did seem to do that a heck of a lot faster, but it was partly just because the obstacle avoidance was off, so we're not only flying faster, we're also flying without it sensing anything, so it can actually just go quite a lot quicker. Let's see if we can see. Yeah, you can see the GoPro down there. So I guess while we're up here, once this gets down to 80%, we're at 82 right now, but whenever it does, I will do the return to home and see how close it was, since the camera is still out there recording, or at least it should be. Then we can see how close it was to landing in the same spot. So I will just fly around normally here. I did leave the recording on just to see, because that's how we would normally use the drone. I don't want to be doing these tests differently. I would just use the whole battery, but I'm kind of short on time right now for my flight, so I don't want to waste it. Okay, so we just hit 80%, so I'm going to come back down here now. I will be bringing up the results and showing you them, but right now I am just going to hit the return to home button, and let's see how close it gets. So let's see what it does. So it's coming over. See how close it was. It was just right out in front of the tripod that you can see down there. Let's see how close it gets. Hopefully I don't have to manually avoid these trees, but it's getting kind of close. Yeah, I am just going to bring it over a bit here so we don't hit any trees, but let's just see. Okay. Bring the camera up. So I'm going to say that was pretty good. Where is the okay, so it was a little ways off, but still very precise, and I'm happy with that result. So I'm going to go out and get it, and then we're going to continue on with these tests. Okay, so let's get this thing back into obstacle avoidance if it didn't. Okay, so it did automatically turn obstacle avoidance back on. So let's get this thing up in the air. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I have my back to the wind. I forgot my microphone, so hopefully it's at least decent. So let's go back up here and just head on over back to the football field. And let's just see if it starts sensing obstacles. So I do want to go up high enough that there's nothing that it could possibly be sensing. And let's just see if it has any weird stops. So far it hasn't done anything, but it really, I don't understand what it was doing last time, so hopefully it doesn't do it this time. Right off the bat, I am noticing that it only did it once so far, and it might have just had to do with the sun. My Mavic Pro did that. I think that's just a tendency of all obstacle avoidance systems. Sometimes they catch something that's not really an obstacle just because of the sun reflections. But so far, I have not been having any issues. That is just what the Autel Evo does whenever it sees something. It just instantly goes into it needs to stop, and it jerks. So if I do lower it down near these trees here, you'll see it do the whole jerk thing. Just if you're, and yeah. So if I was going faster and you run into anything, you go close to anything like that, it just instantly jerks. And that's just what it does. So whenever it thinks there's an obstacle up higher, it does the same thing, but since you're going faster, since you're up higher, it jerks even more. And I think that's what's going on. So it might just have to do with little reflections from the sun and whatnot on the obstacle avoidance sensors. But even here on this sunny day with the snow and all the reflective surfaces, it doesn't seem to be doing all that bad. I'm not having really any issues. There's just that one little glitch there, but other than that, I haven't had anything abnormal happen with the obstacle avoidance. So I think what I'm gonna do is just bring this back over here and do the test with the altitude while tracking, and then get the rest of this flight in and head home to edit this video. So let's do that now. Okay, so it seems to be on me there now. Okay, so I'm gonna go down as low as I can. So even though it's not at that height, let's just see. I go over here. It's following. Let's go up. So as you guys can see, its altitude did not change. It stayed the same. Okay, so I just got home and I just checked out all the tests, reviewed all the footage, and here are my final concluding thoughts on all the tests that I did today. So the first one I think is very negligible. The difference between the time with and without obstacle avoidance was very small, and I think it was very much so in the margin of error. And as well, I don't think I did the test long enough at only 10% of the battery. I would have had to use a lot more, but it was just a hard time for me. I should have waited for another day to do that test. So if you guys are really interested in that test, please let me know and I will do it again using full batteries, one with obstacle avoidance and the other one with obstacle avoidance turned off, as well as radar maps, because I did leave radar maps on, which would mean that the obstacle avoidance sensors were still in use, just it wasn't actually making the drone stop. So that probably wasn't a very good and thorough test. So I will be doing that again if you guys are interested. On to the second test, which had to do with the main topic of my last video, which was in regards to the obstacle avoidance sensor sensing obstacles at altitudes that there just weren't going to be obstacles. And it happened to me once in this flight, and between the last video, which you can check out here where I talked about this in the firmware, as well as in this video, the difference between all the flights that I've done in between then all the way up to here have pretty much concluded for me that the IS isn't really a huge issue. And if this is what you're debating on updating for, this is what's holding you back, I would say go for it, because out of this flight I used 2 batteries. It was about an hour of full flight time. I had one small issue, and it was while turning the drone very fast with reflections from the sun. I think that's what it is. The same sort of things happen with the obstacle avoidance sensors on my Mavic Air and my Mavic Pro, so it might just be a general issue for obstacle avoidance sensors. And like I said in the last video, I read the comments and some people said they had the issues, others didn't. So that's what makes me believe that it is just a small little thing that might just happen occasionally, and it doesn't really have to do with the firmware, I don't think. If I'm wrong, please let me know. And if you guys have any insight on this, please let me know as well. If this problem does get worse in the future, I will be contacting Autel about it, and I will update you guys upon doing so. Finally, the last test from the comment on the last video about using the tracking feature while going up something like a mountain or whatever. All I found was a snow hill, but I did it, and the test concluded that the Autel Evo does not raise its altitude or lower its altitude when its subject that it's tracking goes up or down. So if you're using it for mountain biking and such, you may want to purchase a different drone or wait for a future firmware, or even contact Autel, because they're really great about sending things through to their engineers for future upgrades. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider leaving a like, subscribing, and maybe even a comment down below, because I love talking to you guys. I will talk to you in my next video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the footage I got, and I'll leave you with a little bit more here from the shoot today. Thank you, and take care, everyone.